Even homeless people have more value than you. My brother laughed while eating the food I bought. Everyone at the table joined in his laughter. I said nothing and just left. A month later, he regretted it. I never expected my brother's true nature to reveal itself over a simple act of kindness, but here we are. This happened last Friday, and I'm still trying to process everything that went down. A bit of background. I've always been the black sheep in the family because I chose to make my own way instead of joining the family business. My brother Noah took over from our father and never lets anyone forget it. The thing is, I've done well enough on my own that I usually end up paying when we go out as a family. Friday was supposed to be a celebration. Noah had been boasting about closing a big deal, so I offered to treat everyone to dinner at a fancy restaurant downtown. My mom, Kora, was there along with Noah, his wife Isabella, and their daughter Hazel. Hazel is 8 and probably the only genuine person in the family besides me. The evening started off normally enough. Noah took over the conversation as usual with his arrogance, while Isabella nodded along like he was revealing the secrets of the universe. I've learned to tune them out and focused instead on Hazel's stories about school and her latest art project. When our food arrived, I spotted an elderly man sitting on a bench outside through the restaurant's window. He had a small cart with all his belongings and was trying to stay warm in the evening. Chill. I'm fortunate to be in a position where I can help, so quietly I asked our server to add another meal, soup and a sandwich, to our order, packed to go. No one noticed the gesture. Playing savior again, little brother? Noah smirked. I ignored him and kept talking with Hazel about her science project, but Noah wasn't done. You know, he said loud enough for nearby tables to hear. It's funny how you always try to prove you're better than everyone else with these charity acts. Is it because you want to forget when Dad had to bail you out of your failed ventures? I kept my focus on Hazel, but she'd gone quiet, watching the adults with that knowing look kids get when something's wrong. Isabella was already giggling, waiting for Noah's next jab. The server returned with the packed meal, and I excused myself to step outside. As I handed the food to the man, I could hear Noah's voice through the open window. Even homeless people have more worth than you, he laughed. At least they're honest about who they are. You're just pretending you're not the same failure you've always been. The man had just thanked me when laughter erupted from the table. My mother's nervous chuckle, Isabella's shrill cackle, and Noah's booming laugh drilling into my head. Only Hazel stayed silent, her face pressed against the window, eyes wide with concern. I went back inside, sat down, and finished my meal in silence. Noah kept going, throwing insults about my charity work and how I was trying to buy a personality. Each comment got the laughs he expected. I watched Hazel push her food around her plate, her earlier excitement completely gone. When the check arrived, I pulled out my card without a word. Noah was mid-story about his business savvy when I stood up. Thanks for dinner, Isabella said without looking up from her phone. I looked at everyone, my mom avoiding my eyes, Noah and Isabella lost in their own world, and Hazel, who suddenly jumped up to hug me. I held her tight for a moment, then set my card on the table. The bill was paid. I need to go, I said, before walking out. Through the window, I saw Noah roll his eyes, probably ready to mock my dramatic exit. What they don't know is I spent the weekend making calls and digging into things I'd ignored for too long. I've supported the family, business more than they realize, and maybe it's time to look closely at what my brother has been doing with all the responsibility he's so proud of. The elderly man was still on the bench when I left. He'd saved half his sandwich, carefully wrapping it in a napkin for later. Thank you, he said with a dignity Noah could never understand. I handed him my business card and told him to come by my office if he needed anything. Noah thinks worth is measured by how much you can take from others. He's about to learn how wrong he is. Update 1. First, thank you all for the supportive comments on my last post. A lot has happened, and I need to share what I've uncovered. It's worse than I thought. The past 2 weeks have been intense. My phone has been blowing up with messages from family members, each more desperate than the last. I haven't replied to any except Hazel's texts about her art projects. She shouldn't suffer because of the adults' drama. The real shock came last Tuesday when I got an email from Eliza, my father's old friend who handles some family business paperwork. The subject line was simple: "We need to talk." What followed was a 2-hour video call that left me cold. Turns out Noah's big deals weren't what he claimed. Eliza had found discrepancies in the accounts, small at first, but growing obvious. She tried raising it with my mom, but Kora just brushed it off with her usual "Noah knows what he's doing" line. I spent the next few days quietly digging through records Eliza sent. The pattern was clear. Noah had been siphoning money from the company for years. Not small amounts, but millions in consulting fees to shell companies, all linked back to his personal accounts. The irony? Some of those accounts were funded by my investments in our family business. Every time Noah needed money for his expansion plans, guess who he called? Me. I always helped, believing I was supporting Dad's legacy. Yesterday, Isabella called, not to apologize, but to ask if I'd be at the board meeting next week. Her voice was that fake sweetness she uses when she wants something. I let it go to voicemail, but her message said it all. Noah said it was just a formality, but he really needed me there to sign some papers. Family has to stick together, right? What she doesn't know is I've already talked to the board members. Turns out Noah has been feeding them different versions of the company's status for months, each designed to hide his mismanagement. But numbers don't lie, and these numbers tell a story of theft and fraud. The worst part? Checking timestamps. On transactions, the same day I bought the elderly man dinner, Noah transferred a large sum to an offshore account, exactly the amount needed to cover payroll for our father's longest-serving employees. He's been playing with people's lives while mocking anyone who shows basic kindness. This morning, Kora texted me, begging me to think about Noah's family, to think about Hazel. I am thinking about Hazel. About how her father is stealing her future while teaching her that cruelty is okay as long as you laugh about it. The board meeting is tomorrow. Noah doesn't know I've already submitted a full audit report. He doesn't know Eliza has been documenting everything for months. He doesn't know his perfect world of privilege and mockery is about to collapse. My phone buzzed again. A text from Noah. "Hey, little brother. We need you at the office tomorrow. Time to step up and be part of the family business. What do you say?" What do I say? Nothing yet. But I've prepared 3 folders, one for the board, one for the authorities, and one for our mother will eventually have to confront what her golden child has become. Some of you asked in the comments of my last post why I didn't stand up to Noah at the restaurant. The truth is, I've been standing up to him my whole life, just not in a way he could see. Tomorrow, he'll finally realize exactly what kind of person he's been mocking all these years. The elderly man from the restaurant came to my office last week. It turns out he used to work for my father years ago. The stories he shared about Noah's early days at the company filled in the last pieces of the puzzle. I arranged for a car to pick Hazel up from school tomorrow and take her to her favorite art class. She shouldn't have to witness what's coming. Sometimes protecting family means shielding them from other family members. The meeting is at 9 a.m. I'll update you all tomorrow on how it goes, but one thing's certain, Noah is about to learn that karma doesn't always take the high road. Update 2. The board meeting just ended. I'm sitting in my car, trying to process everything from the last 4 hours. Some of you asked for an immediate update, so here it is. I arrived early at 8:30 a.m. The conference room was empty except for Eliza, who was setting up the projector. She gave me a slight nod. Everything was ready. I placed my 3 folders on the table and waited. Noah strutted in at 8:55, Isabella trailing behind him like always. He actually smiled when he saw me, that same smug grin from the restaurant. Finally decided to join the family business, little brother? I didn't answer. I just watched as the board members filed in, followed by our mother. Kora looked nervous, her eyes darting between Noah and me. She knew something was wrong, just not what. Noah started the meeting with his usual flair, talking about growth projections and future expansions. I let him go on for exactly 15 minutes. Let him dig that hole deeper. Then I opened the first folder. Before we discuss expansion plans, I said, sliding copies to each board member, we should review these transactions from the past 3 years. Noah's face didn't change, but his left eye twitched, a tell he's had since childhood. Isabella reached for her phone, probably to start damage control, but I had already ensured the room's signal was blocked. "What's this about, Benjamin?" one board member asked, flipping through the pages. "It's about accountability," I replied, then turned to Noah. "Would you like to explain the consulting fees to Maxwell Holdings, or should I?" The color drained from his face. Maxwell Holdings was his first shell company, named after his college roommate, Sloppy. "This is ridiculous," Isabella cut in. "Noah has grown this company tenfold. You're just jealous because—" "Because what?" I interrupted. "Because I chose my own path while your husband was stealing from the employee pension funds." That got everyone's attention. Kora tried to speak, but I was already opening the second folder. 3 years of systematic theft, I continued. Shell companies, fake consulting fees, inflated contracts. But the pension fund, Noah, that's what makes this criminal. "You don't understand," Noah started, his voice shaking. "The market was volatile. I needed to cover some temporary shortfalls." "Temporary?" I pulled out bank statements. "Is that why you bought the yacht last month? To cover shortfalls?" Isabella's perfect composure cracked. "What yacht?" Turns out, Noah hadn't told his wife about his little purchases. The vacation house in the Bahamas, the offshore accounts, the gambling debts. The next 2 hours were a blur of accusations, denials, and revelations. Noah tried every trick, deflection, emotional manipulation, even blaming Eliza. But I had documentation for everything. Every transfer, every fake contract, every lie. I did what I had to do. He finally snapped. Dad would have understood. New business isn't about playing nice. That's when Kora found her voice. "Your father," she said quietly, "fired his own brother for taking a single unauthorized commission. He would be ashamed." Noah laughed, that same cruel laugh from the restaurant. "Ashamed? He'd be ashamed of you." He pointed at me. "The disappointment who abandoned the family business to play humanitarian. At least I stayed. At least I tried to keep his legacy alive," I said, opening the third folder. The one with the police reports. The room went silent. Noah's face turned an interesting shade of gray. "You wouldn't," he whispered. "Remember what you said about homeless people having more worth than me?" I stood up. At least they're honest about who they are. The board voted to remove Noah immediately as majority shareholder, something he never bothered to verify. I had already prepared the necessary paperwork. Isabella left halfway through the vote, her perfect mask shattered. Kora stayed until the end, silent tears running down her face. When it was over, she touched my arm. "Benjamin, Just make sure Hazel is okay," I said. As I was leaving, Noah tried one last time. "You can't do this to me, I'm your brother." I turned back. "No, what you are is a thief who just happened to be born to the same parents as me. Now you're unemployed. I hear the restaurant. Down the street is hiring. Try not to mock their charitable customers." The police are reviewing the evidence now. The board is meeting tomorrow to discuss restructuring. I just received a text from Isabella's lawyer. But the most important message came from Hazel's art teacher. She had the best time in class today, winning first prize for her painting, a man sharing his sandwich. Sometimes karma works in mysterious ways, and sometimes it works exactly as it should. I'll update again once everything's settled. Right now, I need to meet with the pension fund trustees. Unlike some people, I believe in paying my debts. Final update. It's been a month since my last update, and I promised to share how everything concluded. Revenge, as they say, is a dish best served cold. Mine came with a side of absolute devastation. Let's start with Noah. Remember how he always bragged about his business acumen? Well, the authorities weren't impressed. They raided his house last week. Turns out my evidence was just the tip of the iceberg. They found records of money laundering going back 5 years. The best part? He kept meticulous notes, probably thinking he was too smart to get caught. Isabella filed for divorce 2 days after the board meeting. Not out of moral outrage, mind you, but because I made sure she learned about Noah's girlfriend in the Bahamas, the one he bought a house for with company money, the same house Isabella thought was an investment property. Her lawyer contacted me for evidence to use in the divorce proceedings. I provided everything, free of charge. The look on Noah's face when he realized his wife's lawyer knew every detail of his financial crimes? Priceless. But I wasn't done. Remember that elderly man from the restaurant? He wasn't just any former employee. He was my father's original partner, the one who helped start the company. Noah had forced him into early retirement years ago using fabricated performance reviews. I reinstated his pension with back pay and gave him a seat on the board. His first act was voting to approve a full audit of every decision Noah made in the last decade. The pension fund scandal hit the local news. Noah's face was on the front page being escorted out of his house. His friends in high society vanished. Amazing how quickly people distance themselves when the facade crumbles. Kora tried to play peacemaker, begging me to drop the charges. "He's still your brother," she pleaded. I showed her surveillance footage of Noah mocking elderly employees as he cut their retirement benefits. She stopped defending him after that. The company is now under my control, but not in the way Noah wanted. I restructured it into an employee-owned corporation. Every long-term employee now has equity. The look on their faces when they learned they'd be shareholders, not just workers. That's what real business leadership looks like. Isabella's social circle has crumbled. Turns out, people don't want to associate with someone who knew about pension theft and stayed quiet. Her country club membership was revoked last week. Apparently, they have standards. Noah tried to contact me through his lawyer, offering to make things right if I dropped the charges. I forwarded the message to prosecutors as evidence of attempted witness tampering. He's facing 15 years now, not 5. But the real karma came yesterday. Noah had hidden money in crypto accounts, thinking he was clever. What he didn't know was I'd been tracking those accounts since day one. When he tried to access them from his parents' house, where he's been staying since the divorce, he found them empty. Every cent transferred to a trust fund for Hazel. Speaking of Hazel, she's living with Isabella's sister now. I've arranged for her to attend the best art school in the city. The trust fund will cover her education through college. Noah can't touch a penny of it. His daughter will have opportunities he can't control or steal. The elderly man who sparked all this, he's thriving. I set up a foundation in his name to help retired employees. The first recipient was Noah's former secretary, someone he fired for asking too many questions about the accounting. Yesterday, I received a letter from Noah in prison. He wrote that he finally understands what true worth means. I had it, framed and hung in the boardroom, right next to the new company mission statement. Integrity is non-negotiable. Some of you asked if I feel bad about destroying my brother's life. I don't. He had years to choose integrity over greed, kindness over cruelty. He chose wrong every time. I visited that restaurant again last night, sat at the same table, but this time I wasn't there with family. I was there with the elderly man, now board member, and we discussed plans for the company's new charitable foundation. As we left, I saw someone who looked like Noah's former golf buddy bussing tables. Karma does take its time, but when it arrives, it brings receipts. This will be my final update. The company is thriving. Hazel is flourishing in her new school. And Noah. Well, orange seems to be his new signature color. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just watching someone fall. It's making sure they see everything they lost as they hit bottom.